So the nature of work is changing too. And that means that what used to be compelled by a farm or pastoral herding, something you had to do to survive, is now something that we're compelling people to do at a computer terminal or in a service industry or waiting tables for minimum wage or driving an Uber or something like that. And everyone's upset about work. Everyone wants to know where their daily bread is coming from. And that's part of this fall of the patriarchy as well, because the work that we used to do and what used to make people feel like they were safe is changing. And the very nature of that economics of the patriarchy is changing. That is no small thing. It is a very, very big thing. Add to that, why everyone is freaking out, the nature of religion and morality is changing. It goes along with the idea of not having to get married or having kids or not, or reproductive rights, yes, but many people are deciding to be a-religious in a post-patriarchal world, and this is freaking people out. It is changing society from the roots up. When I grew up, and I'm almost 50, I grew up a Catholic in Texas, and it meant a great deal that I went to a Catholic church as opposed to a Baptist church, as opposed to a Jewish synagogue. I belonged in my set group, and I knew where I belonged. Now in Texas, it seems to be based on what race you are, if you want to use that word, whether you're white or black or Latino, Latina, or man or woman, and that might determine where you found your place in the world. But when I was growing up, everyone was religious. Even if you rolled your eyes at it and you felt you were only culturally a part of that group, you still went to church or synagogue or temple or mosque or whatever it was. It was still a part of your life. Now people are opting out, and people aren't going at all. I'm one of those people. I grew up Roman Catholic and I don't practice any longer. And we see society split up into those people that want to keep the religion as was and those who are willing to let it go and move into something else. That is a massive shift. I think that the other big shift, something that's been this way for 10,000 years and is now moving in a different direction or is unsustainable, is the way human beings have treated the planet. It's a big planet and yet not for almost 8 billion people. It's a big planet for 2 billion people. It's a big planet maybe for 3 billion people. But as we grow more as a human species, the way we treat the planet affects all of us. And so Bolsonaro's decision to start cutting down the rainforest affects us in the United States. It affects people in Europe. It affects the entire world. It affects the lungs of the earth. And so the fact that we cannot, actually for our own survival, cannot go out and act in the way that we have been doing for the last 10,000 years with impunity, it changes everything. This isn't just, the Industrial Revolution changed the moths and turned them into dark moths, and there was some evolutionary biology happening in front of your eyes, and we ruined the river and we have to clean it up, or it's something that happens locally, that you hurt people locally. Now, it's a game changer. It is a potentially devastating course where we are destroying our entire home planet Earth. And I think there is now an agreement, even on the right, about this being the case. I think that there's more of a consensus about this climate change. There is still a denialism, and denialism is very useful, and you can bring morality into it, you can bring God into it, and religion and all kinds of things, and say that God gave us the earth and it's ours to use as we want. But that patriarchal trope is also dying out, and that destabilization is very upsetting for people that work in industries that get their money and wealth directly from the earth, like oil and gas, like coal, like agriculture. And that's why those are so much on the right of the way things used to be. And then the new things, the computer terminals and the gig economy, other things are on the left. And I'm not saying, I don't want to make too hard a binary, because there's all kinds of feedback between the two. But if the nature of work and economy is changing and the nature of how we treat our planet is changing, everyone is a little destabilized. And then to put it in the context of the election that just took place in the United States but has not been completed, and in which tempers are very high on both sides, it is clear to everyone that American exceptionalism is over. There is a side on the right that wants to return to that American exceptionalism and say that this nation state is, we can make it great again. It was great. It will save us. It was this amazing thing. And that you can tell a story about that place that will make you feel safe and that will find your way forward. And there is another side now that is seeing that that story that we tell about nations winning is not something that we need to be doing anymore. There is no such a thing as it doesn't exist that a nation wins and another nation loses. We now see that we are all globally connected, and American exceptionalism has been laid bare for the rape of Native American lands and the enslavement of Black bodies and peoples, and that these things need to be talked about and admitted. And American exceptionalism is much about the patriarchal exploitation of other people and other genders as anything else. So in the end, my conclusion of my longue durée conclusion from last night's election is that we are leaving the age of the patriarchy, Anthropocene, if you like, behind, something that we've been living with for the last 10,000 years, and that we are entering into something new. But as human beings do, we are only going to do so kicking and screaming and trying to have it the ways that we had it before, and trying to just go back. I want to go back into the womb. I don't want to. I used to say to my mother when I was potty training, I don't remember this, but she told me, and she made me run back and forth between the potty and wherever she was, and I kept saying, I don't want to practice. That was apparently my line. But I think that this is where humanity finds itself now. This is particularly where America finds itself today. And I was talking with a colleague and a friend about Donald Trump today, and he had some things to share about Donald Trump, and I said, no, Donald Trump is there to show us who we are. And I believe that. I don't want to get all cosmic and fatalist, but Donald Trump is indeed showing us who we are. He is showing America what it is, what it's capable of, what its fault lines are, and where we could potentially go in the future. Do we go back and do we hold to this patriarchy that has wrought so much destruction on planet Earth? This is what I study, this is what I do. Or do we try to find a new way into something that is quite frightening to us because we don't know what it is? We have never lived in a post-patriarchal society. Yes, we were once hunter-gatherers, but we didn't have computers and AI and Ubers. It was a different kind of world. What is that society going to look like? And that's where a lot of my thought is going. So instead of trying to get super depressed if my politics have been shattered before my eyes and I don't get to see my big blue wave, okay, that's one thing. But what is humanity actually going through? How do we see our way forward? And what does all of this actually mean? I think it's a frightening time to be alive, but it is at the same time a really extraordinary time to be alive. And as I was telling my son last night, he woke up 3 times saying, who's winning? And eventually I'm just like, they're both tied. He woke up this morning, I said, well, maybe Biden's winning, but not by much. The country's pretty much tied, and that's okay. And I put it into an analogy that my son would understand. And I said, remember when your mom and dad got divorced and how hard that was, and how we both just couldn't even be in the same room with each other without wanting to vomit? And he kind of laughed ruefully because, he was 4 and 5 years old when that happened. And it was a really hard transition for all of us. And I said, now look at us, it's been 5 years and we're able to be in the same room. We can have conversations. We can be friendly to each other. We can figure out where you're going to go to school and what you're going to do. And we found our way through that fire. But nobody wanted to go through it. It wasn't easy. And there was, of course, the fire before the divorce, too, because that's the way these things happen. So I would like to see us moving from the patriarchal age of agriculture and industry and capitalism into the post patriarchal world of, I'm not sure exactly what that is, but I know it involves women, and I know it involves women in power, non-binary people in power, and a lot of different identities, and a post-racist world, an anti-racist world, if we can't have post-racism, so let's at least go with that. And I'm curious what you all have to say too. So thanks for listening.